Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 on O'Connor and Company this Monday morning in the nation's capital. Thanks so much for joining us. It's Larry O'Connor alongside. Why did I sped through my name, because I was so excited to get to your name. But let me just pause for a moment because I think it's important that I take pride in myself.
Yes.
It's Larry O'Connor.
There you go.
Alongside that chick over there. Julie Gunlock, who's back from vacation. Coming
Glad
up at 7:05, Joe DeGenova will join us. At 7:35, Trevor Maddich. And then at 8:05, Seamus Bruner, who's going to explain to you why Bill Gates is buying up all that farmland. Why is Bill Gates buying up all that farmland?
It's like I'm back from Ireland and you just scheduled a Seamus.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for doing that. It's easing me into.
We have no Seamus over here. Stupid. Kamala Harris has been sent over.
Speaking of stupid. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
exactly. Kamala Harris was on her way to the COP24 climate conference at the United Arab Emirates. And on her way to saving the planet from near destruction due to carbon emissions, she stopped to discuss the Israel-Gaza war, which, by the way, is not a war of Israel's choosing.
No, it's a Hamas-generated war.
Right. This is a retaliation and it's exactly what the United States would do, because it's exactly what United States did do. You know, we didn't declare war on Afghanistan. We declared war on the terrorists who happened to be living in Afghanistan. And if the Afghanistan government wasn't with us, then the Afghanistan government had to go, which is what they did until Joe Biden gave power back to them, of course. But that's a whole other story. Well, Israel's doing exactly the same thing with their version of the 9/11 attacks. That would be the October 7th terrorist attack led by Hamas. And Kamala Harris has now been charged with the responsibility of giving voice to the Biden administration's policies when it comes to the war. Sort of. There seems to be quite a schizophrenic sort of approach right now over in the Biden administration. At any given moment, you'll have Joe Biden saying some pretty good things about standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel unequivocally. You hear John Kirby say things like that as well. But then Joe Biden's Twitter account will tweet out something like, Gaza, we must have a two-state solution, and Israel.
It really reveals that there's not one single person in charge.
Right. And they have an incoherent foreign policy, which at a time of war, with when our allies are looking for guidance and strength and support, not a good thing and not a good look.
No.
Well, here's Kamala Harris adding to the problems.
Well, as I said, we have to revitalize the Palestinian Authority, which means giving the support that is necessary for good governance, understanding that on the issues that must be resolved as we think of a plan for the day after, it is about good governance, which will bring transparency and accountability to the people of Gaza and the West Bank.
Now, this is interesting on a couple of levels. First of all, she's a moron. And she sounds like a moron, which doesn't help either.
Is she at some GSA sort of conference on good governance?
Good governance,
what are you talking about? The Palestinian Authority?
Yeah. Well, pause for a second here, because I'm with you, and don't worry, because I'll get right there as well. But the fact that she's saying we have to revitalize the Palestinian Authority is interesting, in that the Palestinian Authority was kicked out of Gaza by the people of Gaza. They wanted Hamas. Palestinian Authority used to have control.
Sure.
And they used to be the government in charge there. Right now, they're exclusively in charge of the West Bank. Let's put a pin on that for a moment, because calling what they're doing as good governance is sort of a joke. But the fact that Kamala Harris is saying it's time to revitalize the Palestinian Authority in Gaza suggests that she has determined, I don't think this is the Biden administration's position, but she has determined that Hamas is no longer a viable alternative in Gaza. Otherwise, why would she be raising the specter of the Palestinian Authority? That's actually sort of a shift. And I think she probably went off the reservation with that shift. But let's get back to the Palestinian Authority. They're terrorists. Well, they were born of the PLO.
They pay if you are a terrorist and you blow yourself up
pay
and
stipends
kill
to suicide
Israelis.
Right.
They pay the families, so there's an incentive there.
Right.
It is grotesque to suggest that this is a legitimate organization.
Correct. And by the way, because they're all, democracy is hanging in the balance. We must embrace democracy whenever we can. When the Palestinian Authority was created at the end of the PLO, basically, which was led by Yasser Arafat and was also a terrorist organization, that was morphed into the Palestinian Authority when they were given jurisdiction over the West Bank and the Gaza territories under the peace agreements, generally speaking, of the 90s. They had an election, and they elected their president, and that was the last election they had. It's been over 25 years.
They haven't allowed elections.
They won't allow elections.
That's right.
And she's embracing the Palestinian Authority, which tells you that, I mean, from Kamala Harris's perspective, the best we're ever going to get there is the Palestinian Authority, which is terrorist-loving, undemocratic, authoritarian dictatorship that takes the money that's meant to be used for the people and support systems and actually is
turns it into rockets,
used for rockets
aimed at Israel
and armies. And she calls that good governance.
Yeah, she is a mess.
Absolute total mess, which is a great descriptor of the Biden administration's foreign policy in general and most specifically in Israel. But there's more.
Truce had ended. Israel killed 200 Palestinians.
By the way, I love the reporter. Well, the truce ended. How did the truce end, honey?
Mm-hmm.
Who ended the truce?
There was a ceasefire.
Ceasefire was
when
fine.
did that end?
Yeah.
According to the Gaza Health Ministry.
Gaza Health Ministry. Can we God?
Israel killed 200 Palestinians according to the Gaza Health Ministry.
Like it's a thing.
Yes.
Is that minimizing harm to civilian life? Is that acceptable?
I don't have the details to tell you exactly who was killed, but I will say this.
I don't have any facts, but I'm going to go ahead and say this.
I have not heard this clip.
Oh, just
okay.
Wait.
But this is a perfect opportunity to go, the Gaza Health Ministry doesn't exist.
Right.
So is that what she said, Larry?
Not exactly.
No? Okay.
No.
We have been very clear about where we stand on this, which is innocent civilian lives should not be intentionally targeted, and that Israel must do more to protect innocent life in Gaza and innocent civilians in Gaza.
Madam Vice President, a couple follow-ups there. When you say innocent lives, innocent civilians shouldn't be targeted and Israel should do more, are you suggesting that Israel is in fact targeting innocent civilians?
Exactly.
And if so, what proof do you have of that? Also, follow up to that. When you say Israel should do more, what exactly would you have them do?
Yes.
I would like
the 2-day warnings, get out of the.
With your great military.
Could you perhaps also mention that Hamas is hiding rockets in people's kitchens and underneath the beds of toddlers? Could you? I don't know.
Maybe just send a little bit, But with your great military knowledge and your vast experience in warfare, please explain to Benjamin Netanyahu, who clearly knows nothing about protecting his country or any sort of military affairs. Please explain to him how he can do more. Yeah. What should Israel be doing right now, ma'am? And then there was this. She was asked about Israel suggested, how about we set up some buffer zones here?
Right.
So that when the bad guys are coming, we can see them coming, right? So she's asked about that. She ignores the question, deflects, and says something else. So then the reporter says, wait a minute, we need you to answer about the buffer zones.
Thoughts on the buffer zone? The buffer zone, you didn't answer her question on that.
What is the question exactly?
Israel has been suggesting creating a buffer zone in Gaza, Madam Vice President. What is the U.S. view on that?
We have not weighed in on that.
This is the beauty contestant moment, right? During the question and answer period.
This is actual classic media training. Yeah. When you don't know the answer, you say, "Excuse me, what was the question?" Because it gives you just a few minutes to rattle your brain and go, "What do I say? What do I say?" And then she says,
"We have nothing on that.
We have nothing on that."
So
you don't need to repeat the question when you have nothing on it.
There's no reason to repeat the question. The woman says, you didn't answer the question about the buffer zones. If you have nothing on buffer zones, that would have been the moment to say, we have nothing on buffer zones. But instead she said, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Excuse me, I need a few more minutes to come up with my answer.
You didn't answer her question on that.
What is the question exactly?
Israel has been suggesting creating a buffer zone in Gaza, Madam Vice President. What is the U.S. view on that?
We have not weighed in on that.
But also, I know. I'm sorry. Can I also say, How could you not be for a buffer zone after what happened?
And then there's that. How do you not have a position on that? Oh, what have we got? We've got 11 months for a new election. God, can we make it? It's 6:16. Let's get to Jamie Whitman in the Deep Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Thank you to our listeners who donated more than $405,000 during our Fisher House Radiothon. Visit WMAL.com/Fisher House.
The buffer zone, you didn't answer her question on that.
What is the question exactly?
Israel has been suggesting creating a buffer zone in Gaza, Madam Vice President. What is the U.S. view on that?
We have not weighed in on that.
Thanks, Madam Vice President.
Thanks so much
Thanks
for
so
nothing.
much for nothing.
Literally nothing. I wish, and we're laughing at this, but it's deadly serious. It's deadly serious when we have a president who, what does he have for brains again? I always forget.
Mashed potatoes.
That would be mashed potatoes for brains. We have a vice president who wishes she had mashed potatoes for brains. That would be an upgrade for her. Mm-hmm. We have a Secretary of State who is in the tank for the terrorists, whether it's the ones in Hamas or it's the Hezbollah or it's just the granddaddy of them all, or the Iranian government. These are harrowing times. And when Kamala Harris did properly read from her script, she had a binder out there that I'm sure Karine Jean-Pierre gave to her, which was written by Valerie Jarrett and someone else in the salon there in Kalorama at the Barack Obama residence.
That's right.
What she said was infuriating and terrifying. They keep saying over there at the Biden administration that they're not meddling in Israel's right to defend themselves. But listen to this.
5 principles guide our approach for post-conflict Gaza. No forcible displacement, no reoccupation, no siege or blockade, no reduction in territory, and no use of Gaza as a platform for terrorism. We want to see a unified Gaza and West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. And Palestinian voices and aspirations must be at the center of this work.
Julie Gunlock, you are not a foreign policy expert, just like the vice president, but I do think that you've got more going for you in terms of realpolitik understanding of the events on the ground. When you hear the vice president speak on behalf of the Biden administration and therefore the U.S. government's foreign policy in this region, and she says that she wants a future of Gaza and the West Bank, first of all, to be unified, just geographically, think that through for a second.
Right.
And secondly, to be based on Palestinian voices and aspirations. Julie Gunlock, if you could articulate Palestinian aspirations, what would it be?
Yeah. Palestinian voices and aspirations are calling for the death of Jews. And from the river to the sea, they are calling for the eradication of the Jewish state. Yeah. Is that what Kamala Harris, is that U.S. foreign policy? Is that our policy?
First of all, I don't think she knows what she's saying
as
she reads from this document, but you're correct. Well, but I just want you to know that the people who hate the state of Israel and doesn't think the state of Israel has a right to exist, when they hear the Vice President of the United States speaking on behalf of the U.S. government say that West Bank and Gaza should be unified and that Palestinian aspirations should be supported and embraced.
And she mentioned the Palestinian Authority, which pays terrorists to kill Jews.
That is basically the Vice President saying from the river to the sea,
that is
Palestine
right. That
will
is
be
absolutely
free.
right.
It is 6:21. Meanwhile, the despicable, weak-kneed statements from the Vice President of the United States with regard to Israel and throwing our ally under the bus there by embracing Hamas, it translates to scenes of anti-Semitism here at home over the weekend in Philadelphia outside a Jewish-owned restaurant.
So go be, you can hide! We told you it's genocide!
It's a Jewish-owned business, a restaurant. They packed the street outside the restaurant, intimidating anyone who would go in or out, waving Palestine flags, blocking the traffic out front. Governor Josh Shapiro, a Jewish American who is the governor of Pennsylvania, said, "Tonight in Philly, we saw a blatant act of anti-Semitism, not a peaceful protest. Restaurant was targeted in a mob because its owner is Jewish. This hate and bigotry is reminiscent of a dark time in history." This happens all the time right now.
Yeah,
Julie.
It does. It is happening everywhere. And imagine being a Jewish student on some of these campuses and in some of these areas where these marches are happening. There is no doubt these marches are not, sort of for Palestine. These are for the eradication of Israel. They are for the death of Jews. It's terrifying.
And if you're a Jewish business owner or of Israeli descent here in America, you're faced with this kind of terror out in front of your business.
Yeah, and just want to mention
the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention this. This is a restaurant called Zahav. They are on Goldbelly. They make apparently some of the best hummus in the country. Again, Goldbelly, and they are there as Zahav, Zahaf. Go there and order and support.
Yeah,
this,
they can ship some hummus to you.
Yes.
I remember Joe Biden telling me that he decided to run for president because he wanted to restore the soul of America after the anti-Semitism he saw in Charlottesville.
That's right.
As our friend Stephen Miller, who comments on the media over at Spectator, says, we're seeing about a dozen Charlottesville every weekend in America, and Joe Biden has said nothing about it.
No one has said anything.
I guess if these guys were carrying tiki torches, then it would have made a difference. Right. Well, the reason you don't hear anything from the president is because members of his own party in Congress are even worse than what you're seeing on the streets of Philadelphia. In a moment, a woman who is a Democrat basically gives an excuse for raping Israeli citizens on CNN. You'll hear that next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:36. Let's go back and do the 5 o'clock hour again, Julie. It was great, wasn't it?
It's gone fast.
And now it's 6:37. It's 6:37 on O'Connor and Company here this Monday morning in December. First Monday in December. Boom. Let's roll.
There we go.
At 7:05, Joe DeGenova will be our guest. And at 7:35, Trevor Mattich on yesterday's loss at FedEx for the Commanders. But that Tyreek Hill is fun to watch, I got to say, those Dolphins. And at 8:05, Seamus Bruner, brand new book, Controligarchs, answers the burning question, why is Bill Gates buying up all that farmland?
I just can't get over my first day back from Ireland, and we have someone named Seamus on.
You're welcome.
I love it.
All right. I just told you that when we come back after our little update with the news, we would share with you the story of a woman, a Democrat in Congress, who's making excuses for rape over in Israel. And I'm sure you thought, oh, Larry, you're exaggerating. This is the problem with you right-wing talk show hosts. You just say outrageous, hyperbolic things. Oh, no. It's exactly what she did.
Yeah.
Without it. Dana Bash on State of the Union on CNN speaking with Representative Pramila Jayapal. And listen to how it went.
The other country. I want to ask you about sexual violence. And it's kind of remarkable that this issue hasn't gotten enough attention globally. Widespread use of rape, brutal rape, sexual violence against Israeli women by Hamas.
I'm going to pause there. And I don't want to pile on Dana Bash too much here, and I'm not, because I'm glad that she raised this, but the way she raised it, kind of remarkable that this hasn't gotten much attention. See, if I were conducting the hearing, it's like, women have been...
What is wrong with you?
Right, what is wrong? Women have been sexually assaulted and raped.
Why the silence?
It was videoed. It was
Why
live
aren't you
streamed.
out
They're
there?
bragging
You're
about
a leader in the House.
Yeah.
Why aren't you out there? Why is your head not on fire?
Right.
Why are you not beating your chest and screaming about the rapes of Jewish women on October 7th?
Especially coming out of the fact that you are constantly trying to telling us that you're championing women's
I'm
causes.
glad you did this because, and also, by the way, everyone's like, oh, Dana Bash, good job. And it's like that. This just shows like how abused we are.
Right.
That when they do something that's like, you should do this,
the bare
that we're
minimum
all like
of human decency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I know, but
fine.
Still, yeah, good for you for asking a question. How about the rest of your? She should turn to every other colleague in the mainstream media saying, "Why am I the only one after 7 weeks asking this question?"
Thank you.
But here we go.
I've seen a lot of progressive women, generally speaking, they're quick to defend women's rights and speak out against using rape as a weapon of war, but downright silent on what we saw on October 7th and what might be happening inside Gaza right now to these hostages. Why is that?
I mean, I don't know that that's true. I think we always talk about the impact of war on women in particular. In fact, I remember 20 years ago I did a petition around the war in Iraq.
You said
saying
have
that
you talked about it
around the war in
20 years
Iraq.
ago.
20 years ago, war in Iraq when it was the Americans' fault.
Right. Here we go.
And when she's saying, well, I don't know if that's true. I'm sorry. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
They are asking for ceasefires before these women who are still hostages
and still being sexually
and
assaulted.
still being treated as sexual slaves.
Right.
These women, the squad, are asking for a ceasefire before the hostages have been released.
Right. And blaming Israel, condemning Israel, and saying
And
that
it
this
has
was
said
just
nothing.
Right.
Nothing about what happened on October 6th.
Listen,
women raped and shot.
You should expect this from the oppressed people when they've been
oppressed.
oppressed.
If you push people far enough.
Right. That's the only thing they've been saying, and they said literally zero about this. So back to Congresswoman Jayapal.
Oh,
October
absolutely.
7th?
And I've condemned what Hamas has done. I've condemned
Specifically
all
against
of
women?
the actions. Absolutely. The rape, of course. But
Oh,
if
I've
you
condemned
when
the
you
rape,
are talking
sure.
about rape as a weapon of war and you ever say but
Yeah.
or however,
Yeah.
you are a monster.
Oh, it's terrible that women have been raped.
But
Specifically
all
against
of
women?
the actions, absolutely. The rape, of course. But I think we have to remember that Israel is a democracy. That is why they are a strong ally of ours. And if they do not comply with international humanitarian law, they are bringing themselves to a place that makes it much more difficult strategically for them to be able to build the kinds of allies, to keep public opinion with them. And frankly, morally, I think we cannot say that one war crime deserves another. That is not what international humanitarian law says.
Let me translate what she just said. She just said, but because Israel's bad, they make it really hard for us to defend you. And essentially what this is it is, but Israel wore a short skirt.
Basically. Well, good for Dana, though. I do want to say, because Dana caught it. Dana caught it and called her out on it. Listen.
With respect, I was just asking about the women, and you turned it back to Israel. I'm asking you about Hamas. In fact,
I already answered your question, Dana. I said it's
Don't make it more uncomfortable for me, okay? I said I condemned it. What more do you want from me?
horrific, and I
Okay.
think that rape is horrific, sexual assault is horrific. I think that it happens in war situations. Terrorist organizations like Hamas obviously are using these as tools. However, I think we have
However, well, that's a fancier way of saying but.
However,
Yeah.
to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians. 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, three-quarters of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't
First
see
of all, I don't
Israeli
even-
soldiers raping.
Well, Dana, I think
Palestinian women.
we're not. I don't want this to be the hierarchy of oppressions. I think
there you go.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. So,
Hierarchy of oppression.
Data said, yes, you're right. We're specifically talking about the rapes and the fact that nothing's been said. And you don't see Israeli troops raping Palestinian women. And the only response is, we're not going to get into the messy nature of debating the hierarchy of oppressions.
That's right.
And that's the American left right there.
That is absolutely
embodied in the Democratic Party and specifically represented by Democrat Congresswoman Representative Pramila Jayapal. What a phenomenal moment of clarity for all of us.
Yes. And when you said, Larry, that there have been, hundreds of Charlottesville's sort of these protests calling for the death of Jews all over the country, and nobody has said anything. There again, it's the hierarchy of the oppressed. Right. It's okay if they call for the death of Jews because the Israel and the Jews are up here and the Palestinians and Gaza are down.
Well, and Charlottesville could be used as a political cudgel to lie about Donald Trump, lie about the Republican Party, and attain political power in the 2018 midterms and eventually in the 2020 presidential election. That's why Joe Biden wants to talk about that every moment he has an opportunity to do so.
But he doesn't want to talk about the protests right now.
I'm still worked up about this, but I'm going to move on. We'll talk about it a little later.
I need to calm down a little bit.
All right, Greg Gutfeld. I like Greg Gutfeld. Do you like Greg Gutfeld?
Of course.
Who doesn't like Greg Gutfeld?
He's great.
Greg Gutfeld has 2 shows over there at Fox News in prime time that are killing it, 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock, right? 10 o'clock, Gutfeld show. He was remarking on Elon Musk, basically telling advertisers to GFY at this forum at the New York Times. He basically said, I'm not going to change my behavior and change what I say for advertisers' sake. Greg Gutfeld commenting on it. And then this is sort of a discussion that a lot of people are having in the media right now about how there's a small handful of advertisers who sort of really control things because they can say to a media outlet, all right, I'm pulling all my money, and now what do you do, right? So listen to this.
It's like extorting Jerry Nadler with salad. Or blackmailing sports fans by threatening to cancel PBS. The fact is, Musk may be the last man standing between real freedom of speech and the suffocating block of the censorship industrial complex, which is made up of government, media, and tech forces. He realizes that advertisers have no spine and can be easily cowed by special interest groups in cahoots with political allies. If you don't believe me, I got 2 words for you. Tucker Carlson. Woohoo. Wow. Look at that.
I love the reaction from the other people. Like, are we allowed to laugh at that? Is he even allowed to say that on Fox News?
I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, he has that takes some courage to basically call out his employer on the air and say, yeah, you get a couple of advertisers and stuff. And apparently, as more is being revealed, a lot of why Tucker Carlson got fired apparently is because pharmaceutical companies basically spend about 70% worth of Fox's advertising. You see it all the time on Fox. They have a pill for everything, right?
And it really was remarkable when Tucker was let go because his ratings were through the roof. There was no other reason to look at this. It's obviously, I mean, if you're willing to get rid of a guy who brings your network incredible ratings, and really his show was fascinating. Yeah. You can disagree with Tucker on some things and still say it was fascinating to hear these conversations occur.
I think there are a lot of moving parts there in terms of why it happened, and that's one of them. I think it's more fascinating that Greg Gutfeld has decided that he's just going to go ahead and say this on the air and let the chips fall where they may. Yep. Well, listen, you're right. It's remarkable that they got rid of Tucker. There's no way they can get rid of Greg Gutfeld right now. I just mentioned he's the star of 2 of their top primetime shows.
But ratings don't matter to Fox, clearly. Ad revenues matter to Fox.
I guess he's checking.
Well, you know what? Honestly, Greg Gutfeld, good for him because he knows that ratings don't matter to Fox.
Good, not just good for him, great for him. I love it. I think it's great, and we'll see what happens. Hey, what's one thing you hate wasting time on during the holidays? Personally, it's the lines. This is why I do so much shopping online. I hate standing in line to buy things, right? And I hate the fact that stores are so inefficient that they don't have enough personnel. It's like I'm standing here wanting to give you my money. So you need a holiday hack right around now. Here's the one you need. Enjoy your time and good wine, not waiting in mile-long grocery store lines to buy overpriced wine. Dump the lines and download the Wine Outlet app. It's like ordering from Instacart or DoorDash. The Wine Outlet app, it lets you choose from a wide selection of great wines, literally at your fingerprints. You can even have wine at your doorstep for as little as 2 hours, and it's only $5. State alcohol laws may apply there. So
I love it.
Right? Although, no, I'm worried about you getting wine at your doorstep in 2 hours. That could be dangerous, so I might need to put a block on you. Download the Wine Outlets app now. Make one to do easy this season.